What's up, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Cardinal Review. I am, of course, your host today, the Cardinal, and we are going to be talking about a game that I finished yesterday. I could have done this review yesterday, but I chose not to because it's today, and today is better than yesterday. Also, I needed some time with myself and my thoughts to digest the things that had happened to my face and my ear holes. And I just wanted to bring you an accurate representation of the way I feel about this game and the way it made me feel in my soul, in my heart, in my shoes. So anyway, this is my review for The Last of Us Part 2, The Journey to the West. Oh, that's not it. That's not what it's called. It's called Part 2. Oh, they didn't add a subtitle? Why? They didn't have a why didn't they do that? That's really cool when they do that. Like Return of the Jedi, Guns of the Patriots. Oh, I guess it's just fucking lazy. Just kidding. Whatever. It's fine. I do prefer subtitles, though. Thanks for asking. All right. Well, what is The Last of Us Part 2? Well, The Last of Us is a third-person action-adventure survival horror video game brought to you by the developer Naughty Dog, published by Sony Entertainment. It's from Spain, I believe. Yeah, so this is the same team that obviously brought us The Last of Us Part 1 and Uncharted and Jak and Daxter and Crash Bandicoot, and they are known for being really quality video game makers. They make good video games. And I am a quality video game player. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not good at video games, but I am a good video game player. Like, I'm good at playing a lot of games. Not well. I just do it. I'm good at doing it. Shut up. All right. Well, here's the thing. The Last of Us Part 2 has been a little bit of under some scrutiny, I believe, recently from people hearing certain leaks. Now, we're not going to get into that here. This is going to be my spoiler-free review for those of you. I mean, okay, this is like a 2 or 3 out of 10 spoilers, right? Like, I'm not going to get into like super specific shit or super twisty-turny story business, but I will reference length of the game, things like that, if you really don't want to know how long the game is or whatever. Like, if you're that sensitive to spoilers, then you probably shouldn't even be on the internet. You should just be in a box at home box. So I have a lot to say about this game. I really do. And you know, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what to say about some of it. So, like I said, I'm going to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. I'm not, like I said, I'm definitely not going to talk any big plot twists or actual like things. And so, let's get the obvious good stuff out of the way, right? Like the visuals, right? This game is absolutely drop-dead fucking gorgeous. One of the best looking games I've ever seen in my life, if not the best game visually I've ever seen. So within the opening moments of playing this game, I took like 1 billion screenshots, right? I was just like, I was just doing that like left and right, because this game is fucking beautiful. And that's that's expected, of course. It's a Sony first party studio. It's Naughty Dog. All their games always look great. The Last of Us Part 1 still looks good. And that's a last gen game. It still looks better than a lot of current gen games. So that's kind of a no-brainer. Now, the visuals are gorgeous, maybe the best I've ever seen. The sound design is also basically perfect. Every gunshot echo. I mean, there's a very dynamic, so they paid very close attention to the dynamics of the sound design, where I mean they really do that thing where it's like when it's quiet as fuck, and there's this ambient, like, you know, trees swaying and breeze and stuff like that, and then it's like when someone discovers you and it's loud, it is loud. So when you're trying to play at night and you have a baby asleep, you're like, I think this is adequate volume, and then someone's like, she's here, and then there's just like gunshots going off, and they're echoing off the buildings in this, like, you know, post-apocalyptic downtown Seattle. It's the dynamics are really well done. Like I said, the crack of the guns, there's this one band. Another really good thing I can think of in the sound design is there's this one faction, right? Because everything's about factions in these games. It's, you know, it's post-apocalyptic zombie game, basically. You know, it's The Walking Dead kind of, but, you know, with maybe a little bit better writing sometimes. There's this one faction, and they don't communicate with words. They are like this super tribal faction that communicates with whistling. And so they actually have, it's like Morse code, but with whistling. And so you don't know what they're saying. And so it's really bone chilling when one of them finds the dead body of one of them, or they just see something suspicious, and they go and they whistle, and it just like echoes off, you know, it just echoes, and then you hear a person like acknowledging their whistle, and they whistle back, and it's just like, you're like, what are they doing? What are they saying? Do they know I'm here? I don't know. Like, you can't. And they use these like bow and arrows and stuff. That's probably the coolest faction in this whole game. Was they're called the Scars. But yeah, they're very, very back to nature, you know, kind of tribalistic. But yeah, so that's a really cool instance of really great sound design, and that was also just a really cool just piece of this game, just like a cool thing they did. You know, I was just like, well, that's fucking cool. Like, communicate by whistling. That's such a cool like idea. Like I said, the sound design is basically perfect. The music is very similar to the first game, if almost. I don't know. Does anyone really play this game for the music? I mean, I know some people. I see some people say that The Last of Us has like one of the best soundtracks of all time. I'm like, it's just like ambient, like guitar strumming. You know, it's like ambient acoustic, just like ring ding 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 ring ding ring ding 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 ding. It's just, it's very like, you know, I don't know. It's very just melancholy kind of strumming. It doesn't really have, there's not like actual like tracks that really like get you going or anything like that. It's very subtle, and it's supposed to be that way. It works, it's fine, but it's very, very similar to the first game. I don't notice if these songs were completely different than the first game. I apologize, but it just all kind of blends together. But I do believe that probably was the point. The voice acting, the sound, the performances were all very well done all around. I do have issues with some of the story beats and some of the things some of the characters do say, but the delivery of the lines is well done. These people have done a very good job, especially Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie. There's a very good depth to her performance. It's very nuanced line delivery, and certain, you know, as deeper into the game you get and the more emotional she gets about certain things, you can kind of see that, and you see it on her. She motion captured this too, so you can see it on her face, and you can see it in her voice and her trembling or whatever happens. Very, very good job all around by the voice cast. On to the gameplay. Straight off the bat, this is my favorite part about the game, I will say, just straight up. And of course, most people are like, well, it's a video game, of course the gameplay is the most important. So if you loved the gameplay in the first game, you're going to love the gameplay in this game because it is just better in every way. It's a more fun game to play. I say multiple times when I talk about the old game, which I say the story is great. I don't know how much fun I actually had playing the game because it was much more claustrophobic. This time around it's much more open, and it has this almost like illusion of openness even at times, which is really great. It's really great level design because it gives you this illusion of things being more open than they really are. But the first game was so linear in a painful way sometimes to me that I didn't have a lot of fun playing through some of these levels because it was like, here's your direction, here's just the linear path, whereas they provide a lot more like open arenas for you to sneak by instead of engaging. So if you don't want to engage whether it be the infected or humans, a lot of times you can kind of get through without having to mess with them if you want to. Also, they added a prone. You can go completely prone now, which is awesome. I know it sounds so simple. You can go prone, they added a dodge button, and they added a jump button. Those three things make this game so much more fun to play because you're now, when you're discovered, you also sprint faster, it seems like. I may be wrong, but I think you run faster. Ellie, as a person, just makes sense. She would run a little faster than big old Joel. But yeah, she's just more agile, and you feel it, and it feels so much more cool because it's like when you're discovered, you can just like run off, jump through a couple of windows, like fly under a truck, go prone, go into some grass, and then like pull out your boat and just like lay on your back, and that's what this game is much more Metal Gear Solid than it is Resident Evil. Like the first game was a lot more survival horror, and an example of that, right? So is Joel had the shivs, right, and they would break when you would kill a clicker. Every time you would kill a clicker, you were wasting valuable, inventory. And in this, you have a knife that just doesn't break. So clickers are now not nearly as threatening as they were. So it does sort of pull back a little bit the horror of the monsters, and it makes the human encounters much more terrifying because they added dogs. Fucking dogs. So now you have to kill dogs. I get it thematically, I understand, but they're the most annoying thing in this whole game as far as gameplay goes, because dogs are just like there's no good way, because the dog always has an owner with them, so they're never like by themselves, so you can't like come up and stealth kill the dog. So it's like you pretty much have to throw like a Molotov cocktail at the owner and the dog and burn them, which is terrible because you hear a dog howling and burning it alive, or you have to just like shoot them both. But either way, someone's gonna get alerted no matter what when you're dealing with them. What I did was I usually just placed a mine on the ground because I love dogs. I really do. I fucking hate killing them. But by the end of this game, I actually was like, I don't give a fuck about these dogs. Kill all of them because they're so annoying. But what I would do is I just put mines around, and then I just make a distraction, and the first thing to come running to the distraction is usually the dog, and it'd blow up. And then I'd be like, I didn't kill him. He just walked on my mine, man. I have a right to set my mines wherever I want. This is America, all right? You fucker. You stepped on my mine. I'm not responsible for your foots. Okay? Yeah, I know. Whatever I need to tell myself to feel better. But you know what? It did. It felt better. So, but overall, man, the gameplay is a fucking blast. For most of the time. 95% of the time. The gameplay is really great. Especially, like I said, dealing with the scars, the whistlers, is the most fun because it does feel like a Rambo movie. You feel like fucking Rambo because usually you're fighting them in big grassy areas, forested areas, and it's just like they're these sneaky weird people and you're this sneaky weird person, and it's just this really cool back and forth because they have these tactics and it's not like hunting the regular humans. You're kind of like, I don't know what they're gonna do. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I don't have much negative to say about the gameplay. I absolutely adored it, and I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, if you're into The Last of Us for the gameplay, I can't recommend this game highly enough. Unless there's a couple of things. So, number one, it's just too fucking long. I'm sorry. Yes, and I know you're like, Ramen, you play through 80-hour RPGs all the time. I just beat, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and that took me 60 hours, Yeah, that's different. Because The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, Zelda, Xenoblade Chronicles, these games that are huge. They're huge. These games that are massive, and they're meant to be, they're meant for you to get lost in these worlds. They're meant for exploration. They're meant for you to just explore and have this these cathartic experiences where you're just out in the world and you're just like, whoa, I'm just immersed as fuck. And you're just kind of creating your own path. You're carving your own path through the narrative. This is a linear action-adventure survival horror game. And it is 30 hours long. At least my playthrough was. And I did skip a big chunk of, there's, lots of little side buildings that you can go and investigate and find hidden stuff in. There's a good chunk of those I skipped towards the end of the game because I was just like, you get to a certain point where you go, okay, I need to see where this narrative is going. And the game's like, nope. And you're like, oh my God, when is this ending? Some of you will disagree with me, some of you will agree with me. That's just my feelings. And of course, I have to say, no one's paying me for this review. Unless they're paying me afterwards, which, hey, I'm, hit me up. I'd love to get paid. But, this game's a linear game for the most part. Like I said, it does a great job of making these linear areas feel open when they're really not, which is a brilliant level design, mark on this game. But also, because early on in the game, there's one open area. There's one big, huge open area. And it almost makes you feel like, oh, is this going to be most of the game? And it's just not. They kind of tease you with it, and it's unfortunate because I think I would have been more okay with the game being longer had I been able to just kind of get left. They kind of let you off the leash. They say, here's a big old fucking area, and you can just sort of explore and find stuff on your own and do a couple little side quests. And they were really cool. I also need to mention some of the environmental puzzles in this game were pretty cool and pretty clever. Did almost remind me of Half-Life 2 in that way. You're going down the road, and then you stop because you see this weird thing. You get out and you go check out something, and in Half-Life when you had the little car, and you could just cruise on all the way to the objective or whatever, but you could investigate these little houses and these weird little spots. There was part of it that did remind me of that. And certain things you couldn't get to unless you solved these environmental puzzles, and some of them were pretty clever. But overall, I feel like they showed you open level design, and then they just funneled you through the entire rest of the game, which I don't mind. I wouldn't have minded had the game been 5 hours or 5 to 10 hours shorter. That being said, it really is, of course, I'm not spoiling anything here. And I might do, depending on the reaction to this video, I might do a spoiler review. If you guys want it, you want to request that, I will totally do a spoiler review. But it's second half of the game. Stuff happens in this game. Second half of the game gets to a point where you're just like, when is this gonna stop? How long am I gonna keep doing this? Because it just keeps going, and it's like, we get it, man. You know, I get what you're trying to do in the story, but it's so long-winded. It's just like, get to the point. And there's certain narrative decisions in this game that make very little sense. That's all I'll say there. I'm just putting that. There's some things in here that I don't understand. The story, the writing feels of a very much like if I didn't know Neil Druckmann, who wrote and directed the first game, if I didn't know he was the one who wrote this, I would have thought he didn't, because it doesn't have the same cleverness about the first game. Again, the gameplay is much better. Story is not as good as the first game. Now, arguably, the first game doesn't even need a sequel, so most people are like, you know, I think a lot of people are waiting for why does the sequel exist? Show me. Why does this exist? And I still believe that I'm glad it exists. I'm glad it's here. And it's going to cause lots of discussion, because people are loving this game. People are hating this game. It's just all over the place right now. If you look at Metacritic, it's got like a Metacritic critic score of like 95 and a user score of like 40 something. So it's just all over the place. It's one of those classic, just like, I mean, it's going to vary. Like, your mileage will vary depending on, you know, what you're expecting out of this game. Also, it's going to vary expecting, you know, how open-minded you are about things, how willing you are to accept certain narrative decisions that may or may not make sense. and I've said this before, because I'm actually I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna come out, okay? I'm a Last Jedi apologist. I actually love that movie. I defend that movie all the time. I'm actually a new trilogy apologist, just in general. I defend that trilogy all the time when people yell at me and they tell me I'm an idiot because I like The Last Jedi. Look, and I tell people, I say, look, you don't own these characters. These aren't your characters. These people are making movies for us. You don't have to like them. If you don't like them, that's fine, move on. But like, these aren't your characters. These aren't yours. They don't belong to you. So you can do whatever the fuck you want with them. If, you know, they have the creative license to, you know, and they have the right to do that, right? Now, I believe the same here, right? Like, it's a lot of people are angry on the internet because they're like, these characters aren't acting the way they should. I'm like, you don't own these characters. These aren't yours. these are characters that exist, and they belong to Sony, and they are being, you know, they're doing this thing, and this is what the creative director decided they're going to do. That's how it's going to be. Just, you need to, you know, you need to accept it. That's canon. It's fucking canon. That's how it is. So you don't have to like it, and I don't know that I do. That being said, I do think that this game has the last thing I'll say about it, you know, it's very hard to step over spoilers, right? But I am, don't worry. Don't you fucking worry. Calm down. I think that there's one scene in this game that is completely unnecessary. It doesn't tell any story, doesn't make the game more impactful, the story more impactful, the decisions more impactful. It doesn't make you think, it doesn't make you ponder. It's just weird for the sake of weird. And it's almost like they're showing you how weird they can be. They're like, look how weird we are. Look how weird we can be. We're gonna make you uncomfortable. And to me, there's a lot of that in this game that I don't really agree with. It's like they're really shoving this uncomfortability down your throat. You know, there's like it's just like, you're uncomfortable, right? Are you uncomfortable? Are you uncomfortable? No. What about now? You know, and it's just like, there's a lot of that in this game. And the last thing I'm going to say, so after this, so obviously the game is finished. I finished it. And you know, there's that episode of The Office, stay with me, where Michael is at Phyllis's wedding and he's giving a speech. He's doing a toast, which he was asked not to. And he starts with a joke. And the joke fails, so then he just does another joke. And then he does another joke. The ending of this game, again, I'm not going to spoil anything. The ending, if you do think that this is, you can turn it off by now. I mean, I've already told you kind of how I feel about the game. If you think that I'm going to get really into it, I'm not. I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to say anything specific. But the end of this game feels like, here's a spot where the game could have ended, and it doesn't. So to me, it feels like where Michael says, sometimes I write a bunch of different jokes and try them all out because not all of them land. So to me, what it feels like what they did with this game is they made a bunch of different endings and they just tried them all out. And we like went through them all. So it's like every time you think the game is over, it's not. So it's like, is this the end? No. Okay. Wait, this one? Is this? Nope. Like, is this could it's like, and so many times I was like, they should have just ended it there. Why did they not end it here? End it here, end it here, end it there. And it's like, they just keep going and it just keeps going and going. And then the game ends. And the note on which it ends, to me, is fine. It doesn't feel necessary. Again, the more I think about it, the more I was like, I don't know why they didn't end it the first time or the second time it could have ended. Because, you know, with The Last of Us Part 1, there's always that thing where like it'll show some scene, someone looks really sad, and then the screen goes to black. That happens a lot in the first game. So they do that again here. Obviously, it's kind of part of the brand, and you do see the brand kind of shining through on this game as well. You start to see the corporate, you know, fingerprints on this, right? Where the first game felt so real and new and raw and just kind of like this thing that's just, wow, this is crazy, this is so intense. And this one, it's like it almost is forcing a lot of these intense situations on you by saying like we're edgy, we're edgy, you know. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's what they were trying to do. And again, I think some people will maybe like the game more than me. As far, I mean, I want to go back here real quick. Don't quote. I mean, you know, I know a lot of people are going to watch the end of this and go, "Oh, Robin hated it." I loved the gameplay. It's a video game, so for the 30 hours I played it, I loved most of it because. And I actually really like the first half of the game. I think Ellie is a really awesome person to be. I like her character a lot. So I just feel like we could have gotten, we needed someone to reel Neil back. Neil Druckmann it's like George Lucas when he's completely untethered. He doesn't have anyone to just like to pull him back. Like, dude, you're being like too ambitious. You're being like way overly like in your own head about this project. And that's kind of what I feel with these like weird areas where it seems like they may have had multiple different spots where they were like, they made all these different spots where the game could have ended or maybe didn't or whatever. And they ended up just putting them all in. And like it just, I'm always like, I don't know. It's confusing and it's disappointing to me. The story is just disappointing, not because there's, you know, a lot of diversity in this game. I totally applaud the diversity. I think it's very natural here. I don't think it feels forced like some people do. I like Ellie for the most part, I like Ellie in this game more than I did in the last game, and I like her more than I did Joel in the last game, because she's just awesome. She's unhinged. She's Rambo. She's badass. She has a badass tattoo. She's really fun to play as, and unfortunately, they just take everything way too far, and they really should have just stopped getting in their own heads about it. It feels like they were in their head about all these decisions, these story decisions, and they're like, what do people want us to do? We're not gonna do what they want us to do. We're gonna go just crazy with it. We're gonna go off the wall. We're gonna go all crazy. And it's just like, dude, no, just make the game, man. Just make the game, Neil. And it feels like maybe he got in his own head about it, or I don't know what happened here. But again, not everyone's gonna have this experience that I had. If and there's no way to tell if you're gonna like this story or not. So all I can do is give you a recommendation based on the gameplay, because the story is so divisive, and this is one of the most divisive stories. I see people online just all day long just yelling back and forth about how the story is amazing, how it's terrible, blah blah blah. Just play it for yourself. I do recommend it because the gameplay is absolutely solid. The graphics are amazing. The sound design is amazing. The voice acting is amazing. And like I said, the gameplay is badass. It's so much smoother and better than the first game. I know a lot of people are like, it's too similar gameplay wise to the first one. Like, what do you mean? Like, no, not really. They added like 7 new mechanics. Like, I don't know. It's pretty different. And the first one was already kind of ahead of its time anyway. So, anyways, that's my Cardinal review of The Last of Us Part 2. Let me know how I did. Let me know your opinion. Have you played it? Are you going to play it? Please keep the comments spoiler free if you don't mind, because this is a spoiler free zone. However, if you want to recommend me doing a full spoiler video, I shall, and I will put that on the internet like so fast you won't even know. Thank you for watching this episode of the Cardinal Review. I'm the Cardinal. I love you, and good night. Be safe. Wear a mask, you fucking idiots.